Let's talk about the good news and the bad news. From Timcast.com, The Economist's midterm model shows Republicans have a 74% chance of winning the House. Democrats have a 78% chance of holding the Senate. Kind of sucks, huh?
Yeah. You definitely have to go vote, is what I'd say.
Yep.
People get so mad at me when I'm like, hey, man, a red wave is not guaranteed. They're like, don't be a black pillar. Don't be a doomsayer. I'm like,
I have said it once. I will say it again. I think conservatives can get complacent. And I mean conservative, not just Republicans, but libertarians who lean on the conservative side. Like anybody who falls in this scope, they can be like, well, it's close enough. We'll just trust it's going to happen. And that's not enough. You have to remain more active than that.
Well, I think a lot of people are thinking like, okay, if Republicans do take control, yes, that's better than Democrats having control. But really what's going to happen? Are there going to be a lot of strongly worded letters? Are there going to be more like investigations that are televised? Like what's really going to happen? What are Republicans going to do?
Strongly worded letters.
Yeah.
That's about what they do.
They're really good at that.
Yeah.
Print more money. Think they'll just keep printing money and ignore the Federal Reserve?
Yeah.
That's sad. That's
but
the
we are
problem,
I feel like
man.
that's if all governments.
But this is why they're freaking out so much about the MAGA Republicans, because the MAGA Republicans actually are going to do something. Mm-hmm. They at least do something.
Yeah. Now, the MAGA Republicans, who do you think that Joe Biden is thinking of? Do you think he's thinking of like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, those kind of people?
Lauren Boebert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, but also look at the people who are winning, right? When Liz Cheney lost, he probably cried.
Yeah.
You know, him and all of his Democrat buddies were like, no, you know, our spy.
Yeah.
We lost her.
But she is on the subcommittee. She is supposed to get reelected.
It's like Liz Cheney is effectively a Democrat, and that says so much about what the Democratic Party has become. Like, they're supporting this woman is just...
But I think that speaks to the fact that a lot of left-leaning people want consensus. They want people to agree with the stances that they have. And the idea that that true policy and governing comes from debate with people who believe differently than you do and whose ideas are different than yours isn't as easy to build consensus around, right? Because it involves conflict.
This is similar to what 538 has. They're 538 saying 70 out of 100 simulations show Democrats winning the Senate.
Who connected this one?
This is The Economist.
Oh, okay.
And think about how sad that is. That Republicans were up in the generic ballot and now Democrats are back up. The Republicans just don't know how to campaign because they don't understand emotions. Michael Mal's made a really good point that Democrats voted for this guy. What was his name? Mel in 2000, the Missouri senator guy. You want to look him up? He died.
What's his name?
And they look it up. Senator dies and gets elected. He was in 2000. A Democrat died and they still voted for the guy. And so he was like,
That's happened.
He said Republicans going after Fetterman's health are making a mistake because they don't understand.
Totally.
Democrats have literally elected a dead man, and then the governor had to appoint someone and appointed his widow to run in his place.
Way more often. I mean, this was there's a podcast called Missing Alaska that talks about the last Democratic Alaskan senator or congressman, Nick Begich, and then Hale Boggs from Louisiana, both went missing. I believe they weren't declared dead at the time of their election, but they were definitely missing. No one, their plane blew up. No one knows where it is.
Right.
To this day, they both got reelected. Hale Boggs' widow ran and took over his seat.
Check this.
Nick Begich
Who was it?
This his name is Mel Carnahan. This is I've never heard this before tonight. On November 7th, 2000, select the next U.S. Senator from Missouri. Incumbent Republican Senator John Ashcroft ran for re-election for a second term, but he was defeated by Democratic Governor Mel Carnahan, despite Carnahan's death in a plane crash 3 weeks before the election day.
Despite that.
He died, and then 3 weeks later, people hated the other guy so much they still voted for the dead guy.
For the guy who died.
Or whatever reason.
Come on, dude. Republicans.
That is party loyalty. That's intense.
Yeah. I think that after I think it was the second debate between Trump and Biden, when Trump just would not let Biden finish talking, there was a lot of sympathy I saw on social media for Biden. It wasn't like, oh, he looks weak. I think people kind of wanted someone that was weak, which is really sad, but I think a lot of people do because of that emotional piece.
Well, I think people get the big criticism of Trump is that he's too aggressive, he's too harsh, and he's moved too extreme. So on the opposite, Biden seems like this career polished, soft-spoken incumbent.
He's
or at
old.
Least, it's because he's old, and I really fundamentally believe that
it reminds
it's a mistake
people of their of their grandfather.
Yeah, you don't want somebody yelling at your grandfather.
Yeah. It's kind of cute that he takes a nap at 4 p.m. and he can't finish his sentences. Aww.
Well, and it makes him hard to attack because if you attack him, you're
attacking my grandpa.
Yeah, and you're attacking an elderly person. That's weird.
Yeah, he's nasty, and he's always been nasty.
Yeah.
would love to see Republicans see this poll and become more motivated, right?
Yes.
I think this is sort of a dangerous period for conservative leaning voters because there'll be as much as possible discouragement, and you'll see a lot of left-leaning press say like, well, this race has basically become unwinnable, and like you'll read the article, that'll be the headline, and you'll read the article and be like, well, I don't really know that that's true. I think that the red wave is not a guarantee. I think that it's definitely something that you'd have to stay committed to as voters, but I also think that like the other side of the aisle would like you to be discouraged.
I kind of feel like when the Republican primary in Pennsylvania was happening, Donald Trump picked up his phone. He's like, I'm going to be giving an endorsement to a great candidate. And then right when the phone goes up to his head, a squirrel dropped an apple on his head. He went, "Don't Oz, Dr. Oz, vote for him." And then all of a sudden, the news press, like the press runs with it. Trump endorses Oz. And now Republicans are going to lose Pennsylvania.
You think so? You think that? I mean, I know you don't literally think that's what happened, but I think it's like.
Yeah,
but I think it's very.
Trump.
I think it's very Trumpy. I think it's very Trumpy to be like.
He's like, you were on TV and I was on
well,
TV.
This is my friend. Like him and Hannity and Dr. Oz have been friends for a long time. I think that is what Trump cares about far more than any ideology.
And I
Dr.
will say
Oz
that Oz has gained in the polls. He's still trailing, but he's only like 5 points behind Fetterman now. Fetterman just agreed to have a debate in mid-October. I mean, like, I think, you know,
Okay,
I don't want to put my
maybe
hand
he can win.
It's
Maybe
like he
can
could, but that's the thing. Like, we feel like he can't. We're already counting Pennsylvania out, and like, I just feel like it is too early to call. Even all of this modeling, you know, it will dramatically change so much because we know the final basically 6 weeks before the election can produce some crazy changes.
Did you see Fetterman's speech when he was bumbling his words and saying the wrong stuff? Like he had a stroke about a year ago or something, didn't he? 6 months ago?
He had a stroke in May, and the day that he won the primary, he was actually undergoing surgery.
The guy is messed up in the head right now. He's not equipped to run a state. This is freakish.
Well, so that's what Pat Toomey said. He endorsed Oz before, but then in this recent coverage of like, because at first Fetterman was like, no, I'm not doing a debate. Like, you guys are bullying me and you are making fun of my recovery. And Oz was seen as really aggressive for being like, look, if you want to represent the state, come out and represent the state. And then recently Pat Toomey was like, the thing is, if you're in Congress, you have to be able to speak clearly. You have to be able to endure. Like, you need to be able to do this. Like, it's actually not unreasonable that he should be on a debate.
It would be reasonable you would step down from Congress if you suffer a mind-altering stroke.
Well, they should give him a bell that he can have on his right hand that he can ding, and then the nurse can have a list of the letters. I've been watching Breaking Bad a lot.
No, I mean, part of like what's hard about it is, so the Oz campaign, sorry, I wrote about this for Timcast.com, so I'm up to date on this one.
All right.
The Oz campaign had offered him, they had said like, we want to do 5 debates and we'll offer you all kinds of accommodations. You can have an earpiece to talk to your staff. We can have more than one bathroom break. You can have something to sit on. Like, and the bathroom break seems kind of insulting, I think. It makes him feel like he's geriatric. And he was like, no, you guys are not respecting you're supposed to be a doctor and you're not respecting my recovery. It's serious. I'm getting better. I'm getting stronger, but like, this is insulting. And the Oz campaign held to and was like, no, you should have a debate. Like, it's traditional. This is not, I think Pennsylvania's been having debates in the Senate race since 2016.
Yeah.
And the Oz campaign hasn't committed. They said it's going to be mid to late October. They won't say when, but it's this back and forth where like Oz seems aggressive, and I think a lot of Republicans are like, please stop, don't do that. But on the other hand, they're producing results. I mean, he is getting this debate, which he said he wanted.
Well, he was on the defense. I feel like Oz was on the defense for a long time. Like, they were trying to do funny like Twitter memes, and that's just not gonna work.
He had Stuckey. Fetterman had Stuckey in one of his campaigns,
which was funny.
New Jersey.
No,
that was
he did.
That was
Wow.
And it was funny. Like, Fetterman's social media strategy has been good,
and he has been sorry, cut you off, but he's been mostly virtual while he's been recovering from his stroke.
Right, which has been good, and I think it's good that Oz kind of decided, okay, that's not going to be my game. It has actually kind of pressed him, because if you're not strong enough to debate, you're not strong enough to lead the state.
I feel like Fetterman is more likable than Dr. Oz.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's America's coolest mayor, says The Guardian.
Right? You take politics out of it. Like, I don't like the Democratic Party, and I don't like most of the Republican Party. But you take politics out of it, and you've got a dude who's cracking jokes and wearing a hoodie, and then some doctor in a suit talking about crudité, and it's like, I don't know, man. I think that's a big factor because people voted for Barack Obama because he was a celebrity. People voted for Justin Trudeau. Women did because he was a hunk.
Huh.
That was like a poll or something that came out, right? Like the women were like, we voted for Trudeau because he was attractive or something.
Must be Canadian women.
Well, I think a lot of people vote for candidates because they're attractive. I mean,
Didn't Trudeau
John
do
Kennedy-
like a weird yoga thing on his desk or something? And then
Trudeau is weird. Yes.
I don't know. Yeah, he's
Downward
Trudeau is
dog.
weird.
I
a
agree.
weirdo. He's a weirdo.
But that's what gets you votes, man.
Yeah. Well, and also like they have this
Fetterman
hometown
is not
boy
attractive.
versus like. No, I mean.
No.
it's
I'm not
crazy.
saying that. I'm saying he's more personable.
Relatable. For
now.
sure.
But he's
Yeah.
been, I feel like he's been seeding this. I mean, he's lieutenant governor. He's been prepping for this race for a while. He was celebrated during COVID. He did a lot of stuff that people in Pennsylvania supposedly liked. He was making the rounds with his wife on like different relationship podcasts, talking about their marriage and stuff like that. I think he has tried to prepare to be the most likable candidate. Obviously unpredictable that he had this stroke, right? No one really could have seen this one coming. But I do think that he was the guaranteed winner of the Democratic primary for a long time, which made it much harder to calculate who he was going to be up against. And I think the hardest criticism that I hear of Oz is that he's maybe from New Jersey or something, and that's maybe not enough for Pennsylvania voters.
And he was like pro transing the kids a few years ago. Maybe not
Right.
pro, but he platformed it on a show, and he was anti-Second Amendment. So that was my big thing. Also, I didn't like the primary against Kathy Barnett when he had all of these like Republican trolls coming out against Kathy Barnett and just straight up lying about her for the sake of
He
odds.
has been running a super aggressive campaign. It's wild.
Regarding Fetterman's rise to power, what he's been doing, he's been working at this his whole life. He's been aiming at this his whole life. I have compassion for someone that is about to run the race of their life and they break their ankle. But you don't run the race in those situations if your ankle's busted. I have compassion, but not to a fault. Like what you're talking about earlier, that's dangerous. If you
Right.
want to love some ill person and let them run your life, you're gonna die. That's the result of it. You have
Bro.
to make the best, healthiest person in charge.
They've elected dead people.
Yeah.
They've literally
we are
voted
at
for
a
people who are
breaking
dead.
point. This is. I
No,
mean,
no,
this
hold on.
is it. This is
I gotta say-
the moment when the world is looking at us to lead.
In a hard idealistic sense, I actually think voting for the dead person is the better thing to do, because then you have no one in that chair screwing everything up. The problem is in real life, they just appoint someone to fill the seat, so you're voting for nobody. You're voting for the governor to just be able to put in whoever they want.
Which, if you live in a state where the governor's in your party and you trust him, is why you would do that, right? So if you are in a blue state and your Democratic person dies or goes missing, and you think that the governor will appoint another Democrat to fill the spot, like, you cast your ballot along party lines.
I love that meme. That's you've probably seen it. It says "Vote Nobody." Nobody supports the people. Nobody cares about the working class.
Nobody will get it
fight
done.
corruption. Nobody cares about you. Vote for nobody.
That's right.
And it's like, that's a great meme.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's a bit jaded. I think we've got some good MAGA Republicans who are in Congress, who are running. I'm a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene forcing the floor votes. That's such a fantastic move.
I tweeted this out, and I wonder what you guys think. Do you need political zealots to run a government?
No.
What do you mean?
Do you need in
How are you
order to
defining
run
political
a
zealot?
government, to have a government function? Do you need political zealots involved? People that
You don't need it.
love politics, that want to politic and talk
I
about.
think people
the
have to want to be a public officer in America. I don't think someone who is unwilling can sustain the lifestyle, right? But I also think that we see the elected official and we forget that they have advisors and staff and other people who are helping write their policies. Like, there are a lot of ways to be involved with influencing politics in the government. You don't have to just be the person on the poster.
Re-election bothers me because people shouldn't be in and thinking about their next term. That should never even remotely be part of the
They
equation.
should just be allowed to be
What
in
if
forever.
They get in, they do
Well-
the job. They get 4 years and they're out, or 8
Well,
years
well,
and they're
But
out.
what if
But
they're
hold
really
on, like-
good and you want them to come back?
Then
What if you
thank you. Start a business and I'll follow you on Instagram.
But what if I thought they were putting out good policies and I want them to stay in
then
office?
keep talking about your policies on Twitter and I'll follow you. But you're done in politics after that.
But
get
then you
4 or
create
8 years.
shadow governments.
We already have shadow governments.
You
What do you
make
mean
them
exactly?
worse.
No, I don't think so, man. If you want to say that we have a government here and that you're a governor of people's minds, then yeah, maybe. But like, there is power to social media and socializing and getting cults of people to do what you say.
Maybe what happens is, like someone gets elected to a first term, right? And then they don't have to worry about re-election because we just make it a lifetime appointment. And then you got to worry about what happens after that. Well, it's simple. We just have whatever position they had transferred to their children, or the firstborn.
There you go.
Oh,
That's
I see.
perfect.
There you go. And then
Primogeniture.
And then you don't got to worry about re-elections. And then what we'll do is, if they don't have kids, we eliminate the position. And then, eventually this can make everything way easier.
Yeah.
There's just one person
Very
who
simple.
inherits we'll call it a throne. And then they're in charge. And then when they die, their kid takes over. and just one person.
This is novel. I wonder
Yeah.
why no one has thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, super simple.
It
Yeah.
seems like
And
the
then no one's got to
natural-
worry about
yeah.
re-elections.
Does seem natural.
Wow.
No term limits, none of that. Just there you go.
I think I want my politicians to be thinking about their reelection. I want them to be thinking about their next term. Don't do that. I'm not going to vote for you. I want them to be scared. I think term limits, if you have term limits and they know that they're out of office no matter what, why do they have to listen to what their voters or constituents want? Why do they have to care?
Because they want to survive after they're out of office.
You're saying people will attack them?
We'll kill
I
them?
didn't say that. If you go into office and you betray and destroy people's lives, you better run for your life. I mean, that's not a good
No,
position to be in
come
as a
on,
human.
man.
I
Are
don't
you
want the
kidding?
consequence to be.
Look at the history of humanity.
Congressional approval.
I-
What's the congressional approval rating? 17%.
So low.
No one likes these people.
Well, I'm talking worst case scenario. If a leader goes in and rapes and pillages his population, they're not like, look at Libya. Look at what they did to Muammar Gaddafi.
I don't want to.
But
You
I
mean
don't think
France
we're
and NATO
talking
with
about like
airstrikes?
to
I'm just
that
talking about
level.
Hillary Clinton
I mean,
became-
there
we
are
saw he
already
died.
politicians that go in and betray their constituents all the time, and they don't get killed. Liz Cheney is out of office, but she's not dead.
Well, they're not really they're not betraying people. I don't think the politicians have really. I mean, they're maybe them siphoning off our wealth is a form of betrayal, but
Yeah, I certainly think so.
I don't feel like
Well,
they're making things worse. It just doesn't feel like they're making things better.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.